Well, I'm waiting for my fish to come up. Ah, there she is. Hello, Rome. Hello. I'm from Istanbul. Istanbul, you probably know of. She sits beautifully between two amazing bodies of water, Marmara and the Black Sea. Although she stretches on a relatively small area, like something like 5,461 kilometers squares, which is roughly like 1,100 acres, she has a magnificent topography. Life blooms around it again and again. The diverse microclimatic zones she creates with her geography makes an amazing bridge for biodiversity. Therefore, despite her relative size, with the hills, trees, straits, and streams, Istanbul has all the vegetation, all the flowers, all the birds, all the fishes, and it is an amazing juncture. That's the essence of her beauty. The winds that channel between her hills are home to migrant birds. Herons, hawks, storks, seagulls, eagles all use her winds to rest on, and they use her strait as a compass. Imagine the number of birds that stay in and around Istanbul are around 300. Somewhere around 150 of them are special birds that breed there. And somewhere around 80 birds, 80 species, visit Istanbul even in the dead of the winter. It's that kind of a city. They fly up and low, they feed and multiply, they pass by each and every year, following the same route, resting on the same wind. Any Istanbulite worthy of his salt, and I insist on that, who tell you about Istanbul's birds will tell you about Istanbul's trees as well. The magnificent green magnolias that lay around the Bosphorus, or the imperial purple Judas trees that flower in this early spring, worthy of a festival of their own. And the morning cypresses among the asleep. And the pines, that I saw those pine trees as well in Rome, and those pine trees that give nuts to the children that play ball underneath. All make the silhouette of Istanbul, the silhouette she is most represented by. And anyone with a true affection for her would tell you about her streams, her fountains, her waters, her springs. The water, is the essence of life, and it is the essence of this city. Water is what makes Istanbul. For example, the Bosphorus. The Bosphorus that runs through her is a biological corridor. Her fish move in herds up and down the stream, season after season, one after the other, and they migrate back and forth the Black Sea. The fish, being the sea bass, being the turbo, being the red mullet, the anchovies, the bonito, the mackerel, and the bluefish. Oh yes, the bluefish. We call her Lüfer. Lüfer, the Sultan of the Bosphorus. She can be found almost anywhere except the Pacific Ocean for some reason. For instance, here in Italy, you call her, I hope I'll be pronouncing it right, but pesca serra. And Australians prefer to call her a tailor. But Istanbul, the city of abundance, the city of water, give her 5 different names. One fish, 5 names. When it's this tiny, we call her a Defne, a bay leaf, small size Lüfer. And then when she gets a little bigger, she becomes a çinekop. And later we call her a sarıkanat. And then she becomes a decent-sized fish. When I say decent, that means a fish that can lay eggs. When she becomes a decent-sized fish, that's when we call her Lüfer. But there's another There's another name for her when she becomes this big and that big. And this is the size I have seen in my life, but not my daughter who's 20. She hasn't seen her any. She becomes a kofana. Istanbul is so much in love with her, Lüfer, the city gives 5 different names to her. The Sultan of the Bosphorus. Lüfer, the Sultan of the Bosphorus, lives in the strait of vitality. She's called a sultan for she rules. She's a difficult catch. If you have ever seen the pescacera, you would have known the teeth. She bites. She's a carnivore, and she's a fighter. She's a survivalist, just like the city she lives in, just like Istanbul. She makes a meal to celebrate with. And Lüfer is said to be the most tasty in Istanbul, and believe me when I say, for she is. It must be the waters of the Black Sea. It must be the differences between the salt levels. It must be the fish that this fish feeds on up in the Black Sea and down in the Marmara. But the minute she passes the Bosphorus, the minute she reaches the Marmara, she changes. The taste changes. Lüfer is only delicious in Istanbul. Perhaps it's the waters, perhaps it's the land, perhaps it's the geography, perhaps it's the fauna that shapes us all. The shape of Lüfer, the taste of Lüfer, is the result of the geography she lives in. Istanbul, the city of abundance, the city of many, the trees, has trees, birds, springs, fish, and birds. Istanbul is a city, but foremost a geography. A vibrant, handsome, fertile, and bountiful geography. Sitting impressively on the margin of 2 inherently different continents, Europe and Asia, Istanbul has been on the route of tribes, legends, merchants, and clergy, the needy and the wealthy. Together, they built another silhouette, a silhouette that puts a priority on the churches and the mosques and the historical buildings that make a city. The bridge is vital for diversity. Istanbul is the essence of it. The geography of abundance, a fauna for the many, by nature makes a great city, a city to make money. Some saw a home in her, some brought war along, most came for a profit. But they all made the city of Istanbul. 8,000 years of human settlement, 16 centuries of imperial capital, Istanbul became a city for all, a city of challenge, a vibrant cornucopia. She is said to be the belly button of the world. Oh, the culture we built in and around her. The urban form of Istanbul must have changed 1 billion times by now. Of course, that's what we call development. The progress and development is measured with money, not by the harmony of the many. Nowadays, she shivers in a multitude of colors, noises, bright shapes, and people, and curious smells. And any tourist worthy of his calling would roll eyes with amazement and etch the shape on the horizon of the buildings, of the churches, of the mosques. For the ancient is better than the tall, the buildings and bridges and all. That's the most tall silhouette of Istanbul today. The magnificent walls, the urban gardens of 1,500 years, the churches, the hospitals, the mosques, the barracks, the schools, the neighborhoods, the soup kitchens, the hammams. Istanbul more of a city now than a geography. Fishermen in their 70s and 80s would tell you stories of an Istanbul like an island in the midst of an ocean. Tuna sailing by the boat, dolphins jumping over, and sharks biting into the oars as if they were breadsticks. Oh, and my God, of course, the sharks. Never forget the sharks and the swordfish. Wow, a jungle named Bosporus. We don't have those anymore. Even if the fishermen are known to exaggerate simple situations, even if 1/4 of it is true only, we know by fact the fish are disappearing. In the last 50 years, and more so in the last decade, most of her bounty, most of Istanbul's bounty, has diminished into something very shallow. A wrapping paper, more than the gift itself. Istanbul, a city of abundance, the city of the many, who had trees, birds, springs and fountains and fish, is crumbling into nothingness under the tyranny of urbanization. Istanbul is becoming bulldozed into nothingness while attuning with the mediocrity of globalization. The northern forests are being replaced with a third airport. The last surviving fishermen villages already lost to urban transformation. The 1,500 years urban gardens that stretch along the ancient city walls are under the threat of a heavy construction. And the magnificent lettuce the gardens were once famous of is already gone now. Istanbul, a city of abundance, the city of the many, once is diminishing. A city built on a fertile land for the trees, birds, springs, and fountains and fish, promised a future of plenty, is now being pressured to diminish to the banality of the paper bill. Her fauna is not of concern anymore. Even the state-owned enterprises that constitute a large percentage of the economy do not respond to regulations. Arbitrary, development-obsessed policymaking is greatly threatening the ecosystem. But a growing group of Istanbulites see how the horizon is now occupied by the cranes. Ask why the bees are leaving the city, feel for the herons scared now by the bridge, and feel an urge to save the geography that made the city. Some picked one fish. Some opted for the forests. Some are after saving the 1,500 urban gardens. They are gathering, these people, and I must seriously underline, this is the youth that is coming. They are gathering like clouds. They're gathering together, forming storm or rain or shade according to need, forming one, contracting under pressure and producing lightning or thunder only to go when over. These are the youth of Istanbul. Losing their geography, feeling an urge to maintain, they are creating a totally new way of gathering for their causes. It is not possible to analyze when new is being created. We can only show each other interesting moments in life. We may look, we may participate, we may become the change. But all around, it is happening. From Genoa in 1999 to Frankfurt yesterday, and also in Istanbul during the Gezi. It's happening everywhere. Youth is mobilizing the steam, the vapor into clouds and thunders. They are gathering and tightening and clearing when done. Until the next moment, it is going to be needed. Floating in the air, a totally new, yet very efficient form of a body they create, following the trees, the fish, the parks, and the gardens. They reflect the diversity, the very essence of our biology. Today, I'm here to invite you to join them. I'm here to invite you to pick a cause, be it a fish, a tree, a street, a neighbor, a river, a garden. Be the part of that cloud that rains. For the story of Istanbul is the story of this planet, and the planet, the only one we've got. Thank you.